He moved toward me slow, intentional, like he was memorizing the moment with every step. I didn't stop him. I didn't even turn around. My hand rested on the edge of the cool countertop. My breath caught. His presence at my back was solid, warm, undeniable. His chest brushed against my shoulder blades. His breath uneven, stirred the fine hairs at the base of my neck. One hand found my hip. The other traced the shape of my side with a kind of hesitation I hadn't expected. It wasn't dominance. It was restraint. A trembling kind that said he wasn't sure this was real and yet couldn't stop needing it to be. I closed my eyes. Not from fear, from recognition, from something deeper than logic. The weight of desire threaded with guilt, confusion, and something heartbreakingly human. He stilled behind me, for a breath. Whispered something I didn't quite catch. Then came movement, slow, deliberate. Like he was trying to say something with each shift of distance, each moment of closeness. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished. It was vulnerable, raw, more about being seen than anything else. My body responded before my mind had time to argue. I felt it in my ribs, the back of my throat, the way I tilted toward him instead of away. He whispered, "I shouldn't be doing this." I nodded. I know. But neither of us stepped back, because what was happening wasn't just physical. It was the collapse of 1,000 silent days before it. The slow erosion of solitude. I was 39, divorced, no children. No calendar filled with anyone else's needs but my own. I had said yes to house sitting for my best friend because it gave me a break from my own quiet life. One filled with more silence than peace. She didn't mention that her younger brother would stop by. He was just supposed to pick up a box. Maybe 2. Then it became 3 visits. Then a shared meal. Then a movie. Then this. He was 29 now, taller than I remembered, hands rough with work. Not the boy who used to do cannonballs at family barbecues, or sneak soda when he thought no one was looking. He'd become a man somewhere in between the years I wasn't watching, and now he looked at me like I mattered. I'd been wiping down the fridge when he arrived. Tank top, cotton shorts, barefoot, distracted. He asked if I wanted to split a bottle of wine. Said yes. We talked, teased, laughed the way people do when they're both a little lonely and not ready to admit it. Then I reached for the bottle, and he stepped in close, and I didn't move. Not when his fingers brushed my waist. Not when the heat of him poured over me like sunlight through glass. He didn't ask permission. But I didn't need him to, 'cause somewhere in me, I'd already said yes, and now here we were. His breath on my neck, his hands unsure but certain. My body answering every silent question he didn't know how to ask out loud. When it was over, he didn't move away. He stayed chest to my back, breathing hard. Arms curling around my waist like he couldn't stand to let the moment dissolve. Neither of us said anything, but the silence was full. The next morning, we sat at her kitchen table, 2 people pretending this was normal. He made coffee like he hadn't just unraveled me the night before, set the mug in front of me without a word. "Thanks," I whispered. Not looking up, he sat across from me. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, but I wasn't, because I felt everything. Every breath, every touch, every ache. And not just on my skin, in the parts of me I thought had gone numb. I was the first to speak. "We can't let that happen again." He stared at his coffee like it might answer for him. Finally he said, "I don't think. I can pretend it didn't." I looked up. His eyes were full of something I couldn't quite hold. I used to babysit him, used to call him kid. Now he looked at me like I was the only thing that made sense, and that terrified me, 'cause I hadn't felt that way in years. 3 years divorced, a slow unraveling, no fireworks, just silence, a fading version of myself, till last night. When the marriage ended, I told myself I'd focus on myself, rebuild, reclaim something, but months blurred dento each other. Friends stopped calling us often. Everyone had kids, families, soccer schedules, responsibilities. Andy had leftovers in the fridge, and a bed thought never felt warm enough. When my best friend Hannah asked if I'd watch her place for a week while she flew to Barcelona for work. I said yes before she finished the sentence. I told myself it was to help her. Truth was, I wanted out of my apartment, out of my routine, out of the version of me I'd become. What she didn't mention was that Ryan, her brother, would be dropping by. She'd ignore him if you're around, she'd say in a voice note. It's harmless, probably grabbing some old tools or boxes. I hadn't seen him in almost 2 years, not since the funeral. Their mother's passing had shattered them in different ways. Hannah shut down. Ryan disappeared. I'd caught glimpses of him since at family barbecues, holiday drop-ins, but nothing stuck. Nothing told he'd grown into this. The man walked into that kitchen last week wasn't the kid I remembered. He had stubble. Now, broader shoulders I thought looked like they'd lived through things. And the way he hugged me, just a little too long, just a little too tight, made something catch low in Mr. He said he remembered the way he used to braid his sister's hair while blasting Madonna and teasing him for hiding candy under the couch cushions. I said he looked taller. He laughed and said, maybe you just got shorter. That's how it started. We laughed too much over a bottle of wine, sat a little too close on the couch. I didn't realize how often he touched me lightly casual I found myself looking forward to it. A brush of fingers when he passed meth remote, his knee knocking against mean when he shifted his weight. It wasn't sudden, it was a slow, steady unraveling. The kind that doesn't feel like danger until you're standing in the middle of it and now sitting across from him in her kitchen trying to pretend like. I hadn't just let him into my body. I realized something terrifying. I didn't feel regret. I felt seen, craved, touched in a way I hadn't been in years. That scared me more than anything, because if I couldn't regret it, how was I ever going to stop? After that morning, we didn't touch again, not for 4 days. But the space between us buzzed like a live wire every second we were on each other. He stayed later. Each time he dropped by the house, said who was organizing the attic, then the tools, then suddenly the backyard. Ick knew it was an excuse. He knew I knew, but neither of us said it out loud. The tension didn't fade. It sharpened. One afternoon, I was wiping down the kitchen a bell when he walked in from Thebachard. His shirt was clinging to his sweat darkening. The collar he grabbed a bottle of water, leaned back against the counter and watched me without speaking. I kept my eyes on neckcloth in my hand. You always clean when you're nervous? He asked. I'm not nervous. I replied too fast. He smirked, cracked. Open the bottle, right? The air between us thickened. He didn't move, I didn't either. It's just his breathing and mine. Then a loud crash from outside broke at the neighbor's trash can, toppling in the wind. I jumped, softly, like the tension had snapped just enough for him to breathe again. He left soon after. But that night I found his sweatshirt draped over the back of a chair. It smelled like him. Clean detergent grass, a faint trace of cologne. I didn't give it back. The next evening, he didn't come. I told myself I was glad that it gave me room to think, to recalibrate, but I kept glancing at the door like a fool. When showed up the next day, I tried to be different. I was baking something I hadn't done in years. There was flour on my cheek and music playing low on the Bluetooth speaker. I thought I looked too ridiculous for anything to happen. He didn't think so. You always bake when you're trying to avoid things? He asked, stepping close. No, I said that's what wine's for. He smiled. It was the kind-off smile that made me feel like a woman again, not just someone waiting for her life to start over. He stepped. Behind me to close, I froze. He didn't touch me, just leaned over, slow, reached for the cinnamon on the shelf and said, voice low, you missed a spot. I turned to look at him where his eyes dropped to my cheek, then lifted. He reached up, slow, and brushed the corner of my mouth with his thumb. I didn't move. The silence between us became unbearable. He pulled his hand back. I should Hester did, then shook his head. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Me neither. I said, and it came out to soft tunist. "You didn't kiss me. Not yet." Buff lingered. "That night," he texted. "Do you ever think about it that night?" I stared at the screen, then typed. "I can't. Stop," he replied. "Then tell me when I can see you again." I didn't answer. But the next day, a Worthisoff blue tank he'd looked at too long. Once we pretended that weren't, watching each other in reflections. Pretended our hands didn't accidentally meet more often than they should. Pretended he didn't brush my lower back when he passed behind me, that I didn't lean into it. Pretended Warren thinking about the same thing at the same time. One evening, I sat out on the deck after dinner. It was quiet, warm, the kind of twilight that stretches out and makes you feel things you don't want to feel. He came outside too. Sat beside me close enough to feel the heat coming off him. Not close enough to touch. "Do you regret it?" he asked quietly. I took a breath, let it out, not in the way I should. He turned to look at me. "I think about your face one eye when we were in the kitchen, Hest." I swallowed. "Don't." His hand was suddenly on mine. Not demanding, just resting, like he couldn't stop himself from reaching for me anymore. I looked down at our fingers, then up at him. Orifices were inches apart. His breath itched. "Say it." "Say what?" "That you want to stop?" I didn't. Instead, I leaned forward just barely. His forehead touched mine, and we stayed there, suspended. One breath, one heart beat away from doing it again. It happened next night. I hadn't planned to stay. I hadn't planned to let him, but the storm came fast. Thunder, thick and drawling. It's the kind that shook through windows and made the air feel close. We were in the living room, both pretending to be invested in a documentary. Neither of us could recall. The name of the lights flickered, then cut out completely. I got up to find a flashlight. He followed. I opened the hallway closet and reached up blindly, feeling around the top shelf. That flashlight fell into my hand just as his body pressed close behind me. Neither of us spoke. His breath was on my neck, slow, unsteady. I turned around to push him the light, but the look on his face made my hand freeze in midair. It wasn't thunder. It was something else, something growl, something desperate. His hand came up hesitant, like he wasn't sure I'd let them. Fingers hovered at my jaw on before, finally landing his thumb brushed the corner of my mouth. "I can't keep pretending this didn't happen," he whispered. I closed my eyes, felt the words ripple through me. I know Helen didn't. Kiss was different. Slower, sadder, like he already knew what it would cost. I didn't pull back. I kissed him back harder. The flash lit at the floor. Forgotten. We stumbled out with the nearest room. Mine, our mouths didn't part once. His hands found my waist. My hips lifted the hem of my shirt. My fingers gripped his back, tracing the muscle under his skin. When laid me down, he didn't rush. He hovered over me, his forehead against mine, just breathing. "You're shaking," I whispered. "I don't want to hurt you. You won't." But we both knew we'd already done damage. He slid down, kissed just below my jaw, then the curve of my collarbone. Each movement was low, deliberate. His hand moved to my thigh, just resting there, not pushing, not demanding. His palm was hot against my skin. I let my legs part just enough. He understood the weight of him settled over me. Gradually, his body lowering onto mine. Warmth meeting warmth. His chest brushing against my shirt as Hep rose closer. There was a moment just before he entered me when we both paused. "I shouldn't be here," he whispered. I nodded, and yet he eased in slowly. I gasped, not from pain, but from how full I felt, from how careful was. His body trembled as he moved upper, every inch of contact, stealing the air from my lungs. He kissed me again, mouth open, breath shaky. He wrapped my arms around his shoulders, pulling him closer. His rhythm was slow, steady, barely restrained. I could feel tension in his thighs, the tremble in his arms as he held himself up, the pressure built between us, heat and breath and friction. I arched under him, letting him in deeper. He groaned. Ishan slipped under the curve of my back, lifting me toward him. Our bodies met fully, completely. I felt the catch in his throat when he whispered my name. The way his breath came out in bursts, Ash moved harder, then softened again. Every part of him was shaking mine, too. I clung to him, not just out awfully sure, but because something about this felt like breaking and belonging all at once. We didn't speak again. We just moved slowly, painfully aware of each other, of the way our hearts pounded and our bodies found each other again and again. When it was over, hadn't rolled away. He stayed. Inside me, his chest pressed against mine, his fingers tracing soft circles along my ribs. Our breaths tangled. I didn't cry, but I felt it rising. That ache, that guilt, that impossible longing for a version of this where no one got hurt. I don't want this to ruin everything, he said, barely audible. I ran my hand through his hair. It already. Has he nodded against Miss Holder? I still don't regret it. Neither did I. But regret wasn't the problem. Reality was. I woke before him. He was lying on his side, one arm thrown across my stomach. His face pressed against the pillow. The sheet had slipped low on his back, revealing the curve of his shoulder blade. The faint scar I'd never noticed before, a toe beneath. He looked peaceful, like he belonged there. And maybe that's what scared me most, because he didn't. I slipped out from under his arms slowly, careful not to wake him. My body ached in ways I hadn't expected. My thighs, soft skin still humming from where he touched him, held me. I grabbed my robe from the hook and moved through the house barefoot, every step echoing louder than it should have. The coffee machine felt too loud. The sunlight through the window felt too bright. I pressed my hands flat to the counter, trying to catch my breath. I couldn't stop thinking about it. It's the way his body trembled. The way he whispered my name like it was fragile. The way I didn't want it to end, even when I knew its hold had never started. He came in Tythe's kitchen 20 minutes later, shirtless, sleepy, rubbing the back of his neck. Hadn't say good morning, just stood beat me again, clothes not touching, and said, "You okay?" I nodded. "Are you?" He exhaled. "I think so." I didn't know. I turned to face him, and the second our eyes met, I saw it. Fear not of me, of everything else. My voice was quiet. "We can't keep doing this." He nodded slow. "I know, but neither of us moved. Instead, we sat off weight of what we'd done again. I keep waiting to feel the crash." I said. "What crash?" "The one where I hate myself for letting it happen." He didn't look away, do you know? I whispered. And that's what terrifies me. He didn't say anything, but his hand reached out across the table and found mine. We sat like that for too long. Later that day, I left the house. I needed air movement. A moment to remember who I was outside off this tension-filled house, and the boy turned. Man, I was falling into one quiet night at a time at the grocery store. Iran into someone I hadn't seen in years, an old coworker, Susan. She asked about me job if I was seeing anyone what Adu was doing in this part of town. I heard myself lie just house-sitting for a friend, not a whisper about the boy waiting for me. In that house and that bed, with my scent still on his hands, I walked out with shaking hands. Groceries I didn't need, and a growing sense that I was playing with fire in a hose full of gas. When I got back, Hugh was gone. No note, no message, just silence. That night, I lay in her bed, my friend's bed, and stared at the ceiling, wondering if he regretted it after all. At 2:14 a.m., I got a message. One had to get out of there. He wanted to stay, but I'm losing my mind. I stared at it for a long time before responding. "You don't owe me an explanation." His reply came fast. "That's not true. You deserve one. But I don't know how to give it without making it worse." We didn't speak the next day, but silence didn't clear anything. It made everything louder. The day after that, I was folding laundry when his name lit up my phone. He left something in the attic. He said a lie. But I told him to come when he did. I tried not to look at him, tried to keep my voice level. But then I turned around and you was standing there close. His hand lifted, just barely brushed mine. "Please, don't ask me to stay," he said. I wasn't going to. He exhaled good then, quieter because I would. We stewed like that breath to breath until Thessalon's cracked. He kissed me hard, like hated himself for it. I kissed him back because I couldn't stop. And when we pulled apart, his forehead pressed Tomini, both of us out of breath, who whispered the thing I had been dreading most. "If we can't keep doing this, someone's going to find out." It wasn't Thor. Who found out it was someone else. Someone I hadn't even thought about. Her husband. Not Ryan's, but Hannah's, Jake. I didn't even know he had come back early from his business trip. He wasn't supposed to be home for another 2 days. But I walked in from the backyard late that afternoon, sun-dazed and still buzzing from the way Ryan had kissed Mebby in the garage door. Only to find Jake sitting at the kitchen island with a beer in his hand and a look on his face that made my stomach turn. He didn't say anything at first, just nodded toward the hallway, where Ryan had apparently gone only seconds before. "I saw him come in," Jake said quietly. "Didn't know he was staying over." I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. He looked at me. My eyes. Narrow, not angry. Not suspicious, worse. Calm like someone who'd already put the pieces together. "I always knew there was something about the way he looked at you," he said. I swallowed. "It's not what you think." He shook his head. "Don't insult me." Then, more quietly, "Does Hannah know?" I shook my head. "I won't tell her," said. "It's not mine to tell." I didn't thank him, Buck, 'cause it didn't feel like mercy. It felt like a warning later that evening. I waited for Ryan to come back from Festor. He walked in like nothing had changed, carrying takeout, smiling until he saw my face. "What is it?" he asked, setting the bags. He went still. What did he say? He knows. Ryan sat down in the nearest chair, ran both hands through his hair. "What did you tell him?" I didn't have to tell him anything. Hestered at the floor. I crossed the room, slowly, knelt in front of him. It's not going to say anything. Not to Hannah. Ryan looked at me like he wanted to believe that, like some part of him still hoped we could ride this out in secret forever. But then he said, voice low, "And final, it doesn't matter, Ryan." He stood backed away. "It's too close. Too much. I can't keep Putinju in the middle of this. You're not putting me anywhere. I'm the one who na." He cut me off. "I'm the one who Sue have known better." He turned to Wyand. I felt it like a crack splitting down the middle of something I had realized. I'd started to lean on. "So Hat," I asked, "you're done?" His back wasselled to me. "I have to be." Wasn't cruel. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't real. Thanks for listening.